Hello, in this video we will talk about Quadro, the retopology tool in Maya, and how to use it to do your retopology. First, to start with, you select your high resolution mesh. In this case, you have this lower lid. So I'll select the mesh and I turn on the magnet here, the live surface snap, I guess it's called. Anyway, just make sure to select that one. Now, you could start like from nothing, or you could start from an existing model. The Quadro exists within the Maya modeling toolkit. If you scroll down, you'll find Quadro. There is also a shortcut which is Ctrl-Shift-Q that will allow you to access it without clicking on the Quadro. And I think if you hold Shift while you have something selected or with nothing selected. So if you scroll down, there's a Quadro tool. So now, after you access Quadro, this is like, I don't want to start with something because I want to explain how you start from scratch first. And then we go to how to use an existing model, because sometimes you have a model that you kind of happy with, but you want to modify it. And they kind of work the same. But if we start from nothing, we hit Quadro here and you start doing like using the Quadro. Now there is many ways to use Quadro. The first, like the straightforward way and the first way, because sometimes if you have nothing, you have to start with this by clicking and adding 4 points. And then when you add 4 points, you can hold Shift and click in the middle. So let me just do it. Delete this, Ctrl-Shift-Q, and click once to add 4 points and hold Shift and then click between them and you get this face. From that point, like I don't need to add 4 because we already have 2 here. Those count, so you need to do this. I'll add this, and you can tell now with this one I need only to click on here because I only need that vertex and everything else exists. Another way or another functionality and tool that we have within the Quadro is by holding Tab and click on an edge and drag. That will extrude that edge, right? And because Quadro have like an auto weld down here, if you scroll, we have an auto weld. It will snap it to the closest vertex once you reach it. If we deactivate that one, it will stop doing. See, like even if I kind of like cross that vertex, it's not gonna do it. If I move it, it won't do it. And sometimes you want this functionality. We will discuss that. But most of the time you want the auto weld to be turned on. You can increase the distance and you can decrease it. If say like you're working with a very, like a very crowded topology and you don't want it to start auto welding unnecessarily. The other way, which is my favorite way, here like we kind of holding an edge, but what I don't like about this one, like you have to move and you wait for it to snap and so on. There is another way to do the extrude, but it only works if you have like the L shape. So if you have a straight, it will work, but most of the time that's not how you want to do it. But if you have the L shape here, if you hold Tab and click and drag on the like the vertex in the middle, you can drag it, and that does not require you to wait for it to snap. Like see here, like I have to be careful to make it overlap for them to get welded or merge together. But now if I just do this, all I need to do is just drag it. Now in this case, now I reached a point where I don't have any L's, so I cannot go here and like do the tab like you would do this. That's fine. Sometimes you want to have this kite shape, but in many cases you don't want this. So in this case, yeah, you have to go back. And anyway, in this case there's no vertices to wait for them to merge together, the same amount of effort to get it done. And then we go back to doing this. Another way to use this tool would be holding Tab and middle mouse, and that will extrude the entirety of that loop. It's not gonna go all, like around, because it's usually it only extrude the edges that have like T shaped. So like here it's not T, but this is T, like inverted T in this case. So it will do this, which is very nice because it allows us to extrude like an entire loop. Sometimes what I do, especially if I have like a big curvature, I don't do it like all the way, because if you have something that's kind of like very complex, I will do it only for a portion of it. Now, if we have something like this, and if I use it, see, like it's not gonna extrude that, because as I told you, it's only extruding those with the T shape. And then like I will move it and maybe just wiggle that edge for those to merge together. Usually I don't like to create my model to be very crowded. I tend to use like very big polygons, and then I start, adding edge loops. I hold control, and then if I hover, it will show me a preview, and if I like it, I click. Now I could I could click using the middle mouse, and that will put an edge exactly in the middle. So if you want to have edges in the middle, you could do that. And if I want to delete an edge loop, I hold control and shift and just hover over like the first edge in the edge loop, and that will allow you to delete. If you do it over a face, it will delete the face. If you do it over a border edge, it will delete the entirety of that ring, like the poly loop. So it will delete the entirety of that one. So be careful when you do it. And again, it does respect the same thing. So if it's not like T-shaped, so it will stop. So sometimes like if I want to delete, like let's say I want to delete like those three, I delete the first one, then I do that just to save some time. If you want to merge two vertices, as we said, like just move it, and it will auto weld because of that, that value down there. And yeah, that's kind of like most of what you want to do and like what you have to do. Finally, if you hold shift and like drag here, you will relax those vertices. So let me just actually make things crowded here. Maybe like I have like a lot of points here. If I hold shift, see those get relaxed. Right, you could use it with the soft selection, and that's my favorite way. And to use the soft selection, hold B and drag with the left mouse click to define the range. And then if I hold shift, see like this even start relaxing even more than if I don't have it activated. And it does give you more organic relaxation. And same thing, you could use it to move. So if I hit B, soft select, and I could start like moving without the soft selection activated. You can move those vertices, you can move edges, you can move an entire face or a vertex or an edge. Now while you in the retopology mode, what you could do is you could also use a multi-cut because it does function. So you could do a multi-cut, right? And it will activate and do snap exactly like you would expect it. With a multi-cut, you could use like the shortcut by holding control. Again, it will add an edge loop similar to when you are in Quadro. But you cannot delete an edge loop. That's only a functionality that you have when you're in Quadro. So if you want to delete edges or faces, make sure to go to Quadro. By the way, when I added like those green points, if I hold shift, I told you it will start, building. And at the same time, if you added like one of those points and you don't want it, just hold control shift, again the same shortcut, and just hover over them and delete them. You could delete them all at once, or say like you have a lot of them, or maybe you're not sure if you have some of them. By the way, they only exist when you're in the Quadro. But like the moment you exit the Quadro, they technically don't exist, not even as like one point in space, because mine does not allow for a vertex in space. So now, as I said, like sometimes you have geometry and you want to retopologize on top of the existing retopology. Just make sure for that retopology, like that mesh to be selected, and click on Quadro, and that will activate it. And now you can just go back and start doing things. As I said, like if you have green points and you want to just get rid of them for whatever reason, just scroll down here and you will have clear dots. One thing that I didn't mention, in many cases when you start, this will be a much darker color. I like it to be like very light color and almost transparent, and sometimes like completely transparent. To fix that, scroll to where it says live constraint options, and in here you can change the color of your wireframe, the color of the mesh, and also the transparency. So I don't like it to be very opaque, so I'll just drag it down. You can go all the way transparent so you see your mesh, but I like to have that representation of the color, because sometimes like when you're working on big beats, just you want to see what you already did. Because for example, if I delete this one and I go transparent, you won't be able to tell that there isn't like a face there that I need to build. So it's nice to have it. You could use the offset, and the offset would be just like moving it away from the surface, which is sometimes nice if your mesh start getting synced in. Technically, be careful, this is like a permanent thing. So if you look here, this is like away from the mesh. So you could do it if you're trying to build like an asset, or maybe like a prop for your model and you want it. So just make sure that the offset is either 0 or like 0 or whatever number depending on what you want. Snap to back faces, I don't use that, but if you want, you could use it. And of course you can reset your settings. By the way, I told you a lot of shortcuts, not a lot, but like some of those shortcuts. If you want to know all the shortcuts that you have, just scroll down here. It says keyboard mouse shortcuts. Here you will find all the shortcuts that I talked about and even more. Maybe something that I forgot to mention. Another thing that I also forgot to mention, sometimes if you have something like this, or maybe here, if I delete that ring of loop, you could click and drag, and it should, instead of like holding shift, then click once, then click again. Here, same thing, like it could just click and drag. Sometimes it will skip a polygon. That's it for the Maya retopology tool. Of course, this is just the technical side of it, but doing retopology for a mesh requires also thinking of the flow of your mesh and how it will, like if this thing will be rigged, and does these loops support your rig and make it, have a nice clean deformation or not. So yeah, you need to be careful of these things, and that's kind of like something you learn with time. Let me know if you want me to go deeper in topology side of the discussion by explaining what you need to do to get nice topology. These things usually depend on like what you're trying to retopologize. So if you're trying to retopologize a hard surface model, would be slightly different than trying to retopologize an organic model, and so on. That's it for the technical side of it, and like the multiple shortcuts and the thing that you have here. I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and leave any comments you have about this video or any, like any topic that you want to discuss, and I'll do my best to help you with it, guys. Have a good day.